guess, anticipation for this deal. How nice is it to be able to get this done now?
Really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always good when you can get them done as quick as possible, right? It just takes all the conjecture out of it and just lets you focus on the ice, and then sort of what your needs are and things of that sort. But they're not easy deals to do. So, but it's a good day.
Rachel and Jesse.
Committing to a player for 8 years. You just said it's not an easy deal to do, but what is it about Marty that excites you the most to get this deal underway?
Well, I think he's an electric top line winger at 26, turning 27 years old. That they're hard to find. They're hard to acquire. You got to draft him, or it's a steep price to get, whether it's in free agency or trade. But I think the fit has been really good, and his speed, his skill, his talent blends in really well here. But it would blend in anywhere. To be honest, he's a very good hockey player. We're lucky to have him.
Jesse, then Megan.
You just mentioned the fit, Chris. I imagine the way this season has started made you guys a little bit more comfortable committing not only money but term as well to Marty.
Yeah, I think right from day one we were comfortable. I think with these deals, especially when a player has the CBA right of unrestricted free agency, it takes two people they both have to sign the contract, and at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. Player has to want to be there and believe in your organization and want to sign, and the team has to find the sweet spot where it makes it work from a cap standpoint and for us trying to win. So thankfully over the last few weeks it came together, and again, it's a good day.
Megan, then Colleen.
Marty talked about some of the things that he needed to consider when it came to this decision, including future planning around his family. I was curious from your side of things, what were the biggest points of consideration that you had to think of?
Well, I think number one is AAV. That's a big one, right? We're in that cycle where we're trying to win, and you can have these wealth of incredible players and three or four of them, but if you can't win, we're in this to try and win, and you got to try and balance the market, your internal comps, and your future structure, and we just felt like this was the sweet spot. And I think from Joe, ownership, our staff, our internal staff with Cogs and Kevin, Andrew, Suzanne, a lot of work went into this the last few weeks, but credit to Marty and Michael Deutsch, right from when things got, once it was like we were determined to try and get this over the finish line, it was smooth sailing, and it got done relatively quick.
Colleen. Okay, go ahead, Corey.
You said that acquiring a player of this caliber is hard to do. You just did it. You traded one and got one. Did the fact that you might not have been able to get a similar player back or replace him, is that come into this?
You mean going back to last year?
I mean, you traded in the league.
Well, you always yeah, the who's available, right? Whether it's trade, and sometimes it's a very small window when certain players are available, and or who the free agents to be are. But as you guys see, free agency is, with the cap going up, it might not be the pool that everyone thinks. The pool's going to look very different next July 1 than what it looked like July 2nd when you look ahead 11 months. So, being able to get this done takes a big puzzle piece and puts it on the board, and we turned the color from potential UFA to locked in this morning. It felt very good. So
Bailey, then Ryan.
This is a player who's really never signed a deal this long, had a career full of ELC's fringe deals. Was that long-term deal kind of a stipulation in getting this deal done?
I think you'd have to ask Marty that. I think we were open to many different types of structures to get the deal done, but certainly we were not opposed to 8 years. I mean, you look at him. He's a true UFA basically. He's a 26 turning 27, if I have that right. So you project that out. The way he skates, the way he takes care of himself. We think there's the bulk of those years should be very, very productive hockey seasons. So,
a few last ones, Ryan.
When Connor McDavid and Kirill Kaprizov signed their extensions, did those numbers interrupt negotiations or make negotiations any more difficult than they were?
No, I don't think so.
Any last questions? Go ahead, Jesse, then Evan.
With the cap set to, as of right now, kind of explode, does that make some of these larger numbers, whether it be Marty or just any of the other large numbers that we're seeing, how does that just change the way that you guys are thinking when you're projecting out, when we know the cap's going up, but you don't necessarily know how much?
Well, we kind of do know how, right? It's obviously it can always be changed and tweaked, but we kind of have a sense, and that's no different than the last number of years, other than COVID, and we've beat that to death when it's flat and you've got really good hockey players coming up. There's other teams with more cap space than you do, but I think now, obviously there's a big jump coming up and potentially another one, and what players are going to be available and actually hit it, because I don't think the squeeze is going to happen as much in the near future for a team that, if they want to sign player A, they're probably going to be able to sign player A, unless player A doesn't want to sign, or but I think they're all different. I think it depends on the player, the team, the cycle they're in, that sort of thing. But I think there's all of us the last number of years we're squeezed in some way, shape, or form, as you can tell by the number of teams in LTI every year and the cap. So I think it's going to be a living, breathing animal. I think the dynamics, there's going to be a shift. So it'll be interesting to watch, but it's definitely going to change, I think.
Finish with Evan.
Sounds like it's signing bonus heavy. There's a lot of owners that don't want to do that, don't want to do these big deals on July 1st every year. How much communication on a big deal like this do you have with ownership to let them know where things are and get it over the finish line?
Our ownership has always been fantastic, but there's definitely, communication. We talk all the time about things, but the usual answer is do what you feel is best for the team. And of course, with Nathan, has a significant contract, hopefully, Kale and in the near future. And, you've got to balance some of those things out. And those are certainly part of the discussion. But, my dealings with Joe and ownership have always been nothing but whatever works to make the team better. That's always the answer.